speaking of shows, Daily Wire. So, I've been a Daily Wire subscriber for, I don't know, a while now. I like Ben. I don't have like strong feelings about any of them. I actually, who's that? There's actually one I like. Is it Matt Walsh? No. Who's the other? Oh, Michael Knowles. He's actually the one I like the best. But I think they're interesting. They're good. Candace Owens, obviously, if you don't know already, you should know. You can't be under a rock. You know these things. But Daily Wire / Ben Shapiro specifically split from Candace Owens. There's like swirling that she was fired. Some say it was just the contract was up. There were a lot of contentious stuff going on. Her and Ben have been very publicly feuding. Disputing specifically the Israel-Gaza conflict war. Are we allowed to call it a war? I mean, because it is a war, isn't it? I mean,
yeah, I think Israel would probably tell you they've been at war for since 1948.
Right. Yeah, because I feel like saying, you know what it is, Clay? I feel like saying conflict is kind of almost minimizing it, trivializing it, and it's not at all. So I feel like conflict isn't a strong enough word to say, and I'm afraid war was too strong a word to say. So I'm deferring to you how I should phrase that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the common phrase in the news, in media now is conflict. People don't like to say war. War is an ugly thing.
Right.
But I would tell you that modern war, the things that we did for 20 plus years in Iraq and Afghanistan, other than for very brief periods of time, didn't look like anything that happened in World War II. So, the face of war changes, it evolves all the time. But I think that media is using conflict. But again, I would tell you that Israel would tell you that these are all just battles within a very, very long war that they've been fighting since inception in 1948. So, I don't think you can go wrong one way or the other. I think
good. Okay, good. Because this is always a little bit out of my depth here. So I'm trying to be very careful what I say. So they have been kind of going back and forth. Interestingly enough, when this was going on, so Candace Owens has made some statements that are being viewed by certain people, including Ben Shapiro, as being anti-Semitic. They have been going back and forth, and he's been very public. I guess I think there was like a party. It was recorded. He was kind of really bashing her, and it's a bad look. You're supposed to be on the same team, and you guys are going at it. So anyhow, what's his name? Jeremy Boring, who's like co-owner or whatever, had made a statement a little while back. He said that they would not fire Candace because of here's the exact quote. He says, even if we could, we would not fire Candace because of another thing we have in common, a desire not to regulate the speech of our hosts, even when we disagree with them. So that was a statement he made early on with this. He was asked, like, what do you think? You're going to fire her because this is pretty bad. And that was what he said. And then all of a sudden, they have a parting of ways. And she is saying things like, I'm free at last, like she's free and grateful to be out of there, as if she was kind of being held hostage, meaning by contract or something. So whatever happened there, it was pretty ugly. And it's I tell you, it's funny. You can look at so many different news sources, and this is no surprise to anyone, but so many different news sources, and depending which way they lean determines the way that they phrase, so one of the articles I opened up said, far right hosts of Daily Wire, like far right, ultra right, blah, blah, blah. And they're saying all these things. So I had to kind of like bounce around a little bit to find somewhere in the middle to get a little bit more of truth. So apparently she has made a lot of criticism towards the Israeli army's actions in Gaza. In November, she tweeted, "There's no justification for a genocide. I can't believe this even needs to be said or is even considered the least bit controversial to state." Her remarks were in response to the Israeli army's siege in Gaza in retaliation to the October 7th Hamas led terrorist attack. So she has, made quite a few comments that have made people in the Jewish community feel as if she is a problem, basically. So yeah, so that's that. They have parted ways. My personal feelings on that is that it's not a good look, I think, for the Daily Wire. To be honest with you, when you make one statement, you say, listen, our hosts, they have a right to their opinions, to express their opinions, and then turn around and part ways with somebody, I don't know. There's a big, I actually did a little poll just for ha-has. I was curious when this first happened. How many people were Team Candace versus Team Ben or Daily Wire? Lot in favor for Candace. She had a lot of support out there.
Yeah, so they were both, darlings of the conservative media side. Obviously Ben Shapiro is like the name, truthfully, at Daily Wire.
Right.
No doubt about that.
Yep.
I don't know if I would put either of them in the upper echelons with like Tucker Carlson or Glenn Beck even, but they're close. Like they're getting there. Candace Owens is a bit of a unicorn. Black female conservative, pro-life. She's the one who's been, preaching the Blexit out of the Democratic Party. That's her. Yeah. She's been doing that. The stuff we were talking about earlier. So, what this doesn't show, we've talked about this before, is there's no united front. And I don't think in journalism you necessarily should have or need to have a united front. It just, kind of breeds that division that we've all been complaining about for the last 10 years or so. But this does smack of a little bit of childish, I think, behavior. I mean, I heard some rumors, some things that Candace is being accused of saying that you can't even say in your right mind, that Jews drink the blood of Christians, she said that out loud. Like if she said that out loud, it was in a like, can you believe that people actually, you know what I mean? Like, and somebody took it out of context if she even said it, which I highly doubt she did. So this all seems a little childish to me in the way that it was handled. Now, if what she did say, the Twitter stuff from November, she said it. I mean, it's out there. You can't deny it. That was kind of the overreaction of genocide. I think people have been throwing that word around. Listen, if the Israelis wanted to cause a genocide of Palestinians, which we're still trying to figure out what that means because it's not a thing, they would call inside of their own Israeli borders first. There's 2 million, there's 2 million plus Arabs that live, Muslims that live inside of Israel. Not in the occupied territories, not in Gaza, not like in Jerusalem and like they coexist and everything's fine. So if there's going to be a genocide, they would start there. And then they would worry about the occupied territories. It would look a lot like Berlin in 1939, but that's not happening. So that people throwing around the word genocide, and people have been doing it a lot, is erroneous, and that's a pretty stark accusation against a people that were the victim of genocide, right. So that burns Jews specifically pretty hot. So people didn't appreciate that at all, and I think that's where this all kind of went sideways. Whether she agrees with what Israel is doing or not is one thing. The use of that word and making an accusation like that kind of ups it a little bit more. And that's when I think we got kind of into the childish realm of, how we're going to handle this. And there was the name calling and, all those other things. But I do believe it was uncomfortable enough for her that she did just want out of there. She was probably happy that they came to whatever terms of agreement, to get her out of there, for her to leave. Like you said, the free at last, proclamation. I think she was probably happy to leave. The problem is, where does she go? Does she go in the journalist route? Does she mimic Tucker and hope things work out for her? Does she bounce over to the Blaze? Does she, you know what I mean? Like, where does she go to do this. She's not going to Fox. I can tell you that right.
No, nope, definitely not.
You know, I hope she's got a plan, because I think her voice is important to journalism in general.
Yes.
You know, and she's probably as much a pundit as she is a journalist, probably more so a pundit. But again, she's an important voice to have out there.
Right.
And I don't think it does anybody any good to have her wandering around, you know, shaking a cup, selling pencils, trying to get back on TV again. Like that, that's not a good thing. So we'll see how it plays out. But it got pretty ugly.
It did. Yeah, that, I think, you know, I agree with you on I think that's the thing that kind of got me the most, the pettiness of it. And you know, I would have liked it. And I agree that, you know, I don't need to see, it doesn't need to be a united front, but just keep it classy. Can we keep it classy at the very least? Like, that's all I would ask for. Like, you know what, we've come to a point where we're at an impasse. We're not going to agree. This is an uncomfortable, unpleasant situation for all of us. And we all agree that it's best for us to part ways. We wish each other the best and in their endeavors, you know, like, class it up. Let's be those guys with the class, not, you know, but
I'm sure it will be a topic. If it hasn't been already, it'll be a topic on The View.
Of course. Oh, of course.
Exactly the reason
you know,
talking about.
Those cackling hens, man, can't stand them. I can't stand them.